Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of What's Their Why, the podcast. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined today, as you can see, by Jodie Campbell from a fantastic organisation called Apps for Good. Welcome, Jodie.
Thank you so much for having me. Lovely to be here.
It's great to have you. Should we kick off with let's introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Aaron said, my name is Jodie Campbell, and I work for an organisation called Apps for Good. We are a charity that provides free tech and computing courses to schools across the UK, but worldwide as well, that are really trying to encourage students to think innovatively and to create a tech product, generally an app that kind of solves a problem or does something good for a community that they care about and or that they're a part of as well. So I'm the Senior Education Community Manager, which is a bit of a mouthful, at Apps for Good. So my job is really working really closely with the teachers and the schools to support the delivery of the courses, and also to link the teachers and the students up with volunteers that we have who work in industry, who particularly in the tech industry can come in, listen to those ideas they've come up with and give them some feedback and some kind of real industry knowledge. And I know that you've done a few of those kind of virtual sessions yourself, Darren, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, that's kind of the overview, I suppose, of who we are overall. And we've just this year launched our new climate focused course. It's called Innovate for Climate Change. And a big part of the reason we launched that is because we were constantly hearing how important climate and global warming issues were to young people, but maybe that feeling that they weren't quite given the agency to know what to do about it and you know what they can do in their small town in the UK or wherever they happen to be. And similarly, a lot of teachers really feeling that they wanted to be supported in teaching about that, but not quite knowing where to start or feeling maybe a bit under-equipped for that. So we wanted to kind of try and bridge that gap in a way as well, which has been really great to see the ideas starting to come from the young people.
Absolutely, and I have to say you bridged the gap really well from my own experience, having taken part in some online sessions and design sprints around app creation, and then working with some of the schools as an industry expert. Little bit sort of Dragon's Den-y in a way, but without the money. I'd love to have that big pot of money sitting next to me to hand it over.
That'd be great.
Because some of the ideas and the concepts that the students that I've worked with have come up with have been absolutely phenomenal, and we'll get into that later. But for the benefit of obviously the listeners and the viewers, what sort of age range does Apps for Good cover?
It's a good question. So we are kind of roughly key stage 3. So generally we get most of our engagement from kind of year 7, 8 generally, or S1, S2 for any fellow Scot listeners out there. But we are pretty flexible. We branch we post our courses and we map them to the key stage 3 curriculum. But if we've got some primary schools, some year 6 classes that will deliver, and we've got some maybe slightly higher level students in year 10 that will do it as well. So it's really open to everyone, but that year 7 and 8 is the sweet spot, maybe I would say, for who delivers.
Absolutely, and certainly that's been my experience from the schools I've worked with so far, and been really impressed with the maturity of the ideas that students have come up with as well. So how do schools get involved with running an Apps for Good course then?
So it's very easy. All of our courses are completely free, and all you have to do is go onto our website, which is appsforgood.org, and sign up as an educator. So you just kind of fill in your name, your school, your details, and that gives you full access to all of the materials. And it's kind of up to you how involved with us you want to be. If you have questions and difficulties in any way or things you're unsure of, then I guess kind of my job and my colleagues' jobs are to support with that. But also we've tried to make it so that the courses can just be picked up and delivered. So there's lesson plans and support that are all just kind of sitting there waiting for you. So it's very, very quick and easy. It should be to just go on and get started.
Absolutely, and so important as well. In this day and age with education as it is, that there are resources that you can pick up and run with, because subject specialists are at a real premium. Not everybody has that has that option to be able to turn to someone who's got app creation experience, for example, and say, can you run a couple of sessions or a period of a few weeks on this, that, or the other? So the ability to be able to come to people like yourself and get that advice, get that support, but also get the materials as well.
Definitely. And we're so conscious of how precious teachers' time is, and just how busy schools are and busy that school day is, and how much there's a million and one things going on all at once. So we've really tried to keep that in mind when creating the courses, that it's something that we don't want, you know, anyone to have to be sitting at 9 o'clock on their Friday night going through and upskilling themselves on anything. It's trying to make it as easy as possible. And we've got, you know, teachers who are typically music teachers, for example, that are being able to deliver the course. So the hope is that we're accessible to all, even those without, you know, that, as you say, that coding and tech background, which when I first started Apps for Good about 18 months ago, I had none of either. So I guess I have first-hand experience of coming in, hearing the term block coding and being a bit like, oh, I don't know how to do that, but being able to, kind of go through the resources when upskilling myself and seeing how you can kind of pick it up and take it from there as well. And a lot of the time, the students themselves are the experts. They'll have been, you know, doing coding in their spare time since they were about 7 years old in some cases. So they kind of, those occasions where we do go into schools and we do see students firsthand, you kind of learn a lot from their knowledge with it as well, which is always quite amazing.
I think that's a really important point as well, because, you know, people who are considering running this kind of course, if you like, might be a little bit apprehensive because they're worried that they don't have the knowledge or the skills themselves. But actually, in this day and age, with the options of no code and all that kind of thing, being able to put together a prototype for an app is actually very, very accessible, very easy to do. You know, we're not talking about launching something straight away on the App Store and making it available to everybody, but you can do that in a PowerPoint, you can do it in a Google slide, you can do it in a specific no-code platform, but you can literally just pretty much type or draw what you want and then get it to do what you want it to do. I really love using things like Figma to be able to use prototyping and all that kind of thing, which had I, you know, if I were to look back to like 5 years ago, I would never have even contemplated doing that. But actually now, for me, as part of my role, where I do a lot of work around work across our trust in terms of development of forms of communication, our intranet and all those kind of things, actually it's much easier to create a quick prototype than it is to explain in words what you want a feature to be able to do. And then we can hand that to a developer and say, look, we want it to do that. It's actually so much easier than trying to explain it yourself, because you know, we all interpret words differently, but if we watch something happen, it's much easier, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think the nice thing as well is that, so we use we recommend a website called App Lab for our courses, and that brings together both that coding side of it, but also the design element. So that kind of way you're saying of, you know, having to describe what it's doing, if you have something that looks the way you want it to look and kind of you're able to click through it, it's so much of an easier process to see. And it really helps, I think, with, because lots of students have different interests in ways. So some students are really interested in the design of it and, you know, making their logos really cool and like thinking about that user journey and where they're going. And then other students are maybe interested in the kind of more hard coding and making it all work in a really kind of jazzy way at the end. And so it's a nice way to bring all of those skills together and all the strengths in a team, because the students work together in teams to create their app. So it's kind of bringing the best out of everyone, regardless of what your maybe natural inclination is, I suppose.
Absolutely, and really hitting those key skills, you know, the communication, the collaboration, the creativity, and the critical thinking as well. Why isn't it doing what we want it to do? And actually, if I was a user, what would my experience be like, and do we need to change it? And you can really see that when you see the students' projects, whether it's as a working prototype, whether it's as a drawing of what they would like it to do, even at the most basic levels. You know, here's stage 1, here's stage 2, here's stage 3. Actually, you get the feel for what they're trying to achieve. Or whether it's a presentation that they're delivering, which, you know, they always blow me away with, because some of them, obviously, for those people who've never been part of it, some will record a video, and some of the production value on those things are brilliant.
Yeah.
Others will do it live in the classroom, which I'd always think, fair play, because that's not
Yeah,
easy to do, particularly when
definitely.
you've got someone like myself kind of like beamed in via the whiteboard, just kind of sitting there grinning and listening and then offering feedback. It is quite daunting, not just in
Mhm.
front of your own peers, but in front of your teacher and everything else, because you feel a weight of responsibility. But great skills for those students to develop, and really motivating from then. You kind of I kind of try and draw a comparison between the first time I see, when I do it kind of like remotely, the first time I see them on screen to
Mm.
the last time I see them on screen, and usually it's like 3 minutes, but the journey in that 3 minutes is
Yeah,
phenomenal in
absolutely.
just how
Yeah.
clear they are, and how they express themselves and everything else.
I know, and it's really, I think, yeah, it's such a good point about the short, almost the kind of tiny amount of time that you're with them. But they quite often they'll come on and they're nervous, understandably, and then within, as you say, 3 minutes or so, having someone actually listen to the idea and hear it, especially someone kind of external to the classroom or working in a field that they are interested in looking at the future, it almost like helps to connect the dots in a way, and of that kind of, well, they got from the classroom to where they are, and they're interested in, what I'm talking about, and stuff. So it's given that agency, and also that not quite like guide on how to get from A to B, but just a bit of it's like showing the steps slightly more. And I suppose that's the same with the app, with what you were saying about the kind of hand-drawn versus prototyping. It's like things don't just happen instantly. It goes from, A to B to C to D until we get to Z. And I think both kind of in the expert sessions, being able to see someone in a career potentially that they're interested in, but also even just in the process of making the app, it shows, how to work together to get to those places, I guess.
And also that resilience as well. You might go
Yeah.
A to C to Z, but you might get to W and then find you slide all the way back to B again,
Yeah.
because actually that's not doing anything like what we originally intended it to do, or
Yeah.
feedback from our focus group has been, actually that's not what we want, or we won't engage with that, whatever it might be. And I think, anything from a student perspective that involves pupil voice,
Mm-hmm.
it is so important. And whether that's working individually, working in a team, producing a prototype, whatever it might be, actually that opportunity to give live feedback and also receive it, which is
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
sometimes. I struggle sometimes.
Yeah.
People
Me
give me
too.
feedback on things and they say, well, this doesn't work very well and that doesn't work very well, and I struggle sometimes to take a step back and go, actually, let's try and walk in their shoes,
Mm.
and not be so precious about it, because
Yeah.
when you've come up with a concept and an idea and you're passionate about it, you want it to work. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just not what other people want, and you have to accept that. So I
Yeah.
think it's brilliant for developing that level of resilience.
Definitely. And I think as well as that, the teamwork element of it too. So, you're working in groups of kind of 3 or 4 potentially, and at the end of it, you have to create a product all together. So it might be that, you have an idea that you're really passionate about day one, but your team members aren't quite so on board with it. And you have to debate it and,
Yeah,
fight for your own ideas, but also be willing to open up to others, or to, compromise and things. And I think that's a really amazing process for the young people as well. And I was visiting a school in Luton recently where we were speaking about that, and they were all very energized by it, and they were kind of having a bit of a joke and saying like, oh, we didn't go with my idea in the end. And the other team are going, well, it's because your idea had this. And they're having like a kind of funny debate, even just talking about the process of how they got there. And I think that's a really nice thing. It's like the energy that brings to the classroom, and it's that kind of like noisiness in the best way of debating and learning those skills of how you work in a team, and making sure that everyone's voices are heard, things as well. So it's a really amazing thing to be able to witness, I think, in the classroom.
and fantastic careers education as well. And it's one of those things, when I was a school leader, it used to frustrate me sometimes, because you in the corridors or in lessons, you'd ask students about their careers education, and 9 times out of 10 they say they hadn't had any. And then you'd say to them, oh, what about that you did? And they go, oh, yeah, no, that, yeah, I suppose that, yeah, that is. And what about this? And what about all of that you did? And it's almost like if you don't badge it as careers, they don't recognize it.
Yeah.
whether they recognize it or not doesn't matter. The most important thing is that they're developing those skills, and those are skills that they're going to take forward into later life, but also in the very near future as well, because like you say, years 7 and 8, before very long, they're going to be out into the world of work, and they're going to be using these skills, collaborating probably on a global scale in a lot of cases, and having to be resilient and having to deal with working with colleagues who are more or less motivated about certain aspects than they are, and that's a real skill. And you don't learn it overnight. You've got to develop it as you go along. I think I'm still learning 100%, and I think that's important for students to see as well, because I've had a couple of experiences where I've been in as a product expert, and actually the ideas they've come up with have really blown me away, and I've learned things from their approach. And I'm more happy to say that we don't have to be the kind of the be-alls and know-it-alls at the front of the class. Actually, everybody's learning, because the world moves so fast. You can't possibly know everything.
Absolutely.
It's great. Have you got any particular kind of showcase amazing ideas that you've witnessed and seen over the years so far?
Yeah, so we're in the kind of midst of our showcase season at the moment for this year. So our entries kind of officially closed last Friday. So I've now had a chance to look through them all. I don't know how much I should kind of share of showcase this year. It'll be maybe a bit of a spoiler, but in terms of last year, there was loads of amazing ideas. And the way that the showcase works is that any student or any team that have completed an Apps for Good course can enter, and that we have shortlisters and volunteers from our kind of corporate partners and lots of companies who will then go through, as yourself were saying earlier, Dan, and go through the entries and look and see how they are in terms of innovation and how they've describe their user and all these different factors, and be able to give some feedback to those students. And what happens is we then have kind of top teams within different categories that we showcase on our socials and shout about, and they all get a chance to pitch to a panel of judges. So there's 3 teams that pitch to a panel of judges, and those judges will then select their kind of favourites from those 3 who are kind of the judges' favourites within that category that year. And a real highlight for me from last year was, for the first time ever, we had a climate specific category, because we had been piloting our new climate course, and so the schools that had been involved in that were in, and we had, it was a OVO Foundation that one of our funders had come along, and so the students were pitching to a panel of people from OVO, and one of the teams came on. It was a team called Electrosaver. All of the details are on our website if anyone wants to go and have a wee read through last year's winners. The team came on, and they kind of tested the OVO team. They kind of said, have you ever heard of a vampire device? And they put it out there as kind of a question to them, which I just thought was so funny, first of all, that they were kind of grilling the judges almost to be like, well, have you heard of this? And thankfully, obviously they had, and they were able to answer. But I think as well, just the confidence and these young people that are 12, 13 years old to be able to come on to this panel of there was about 6 or 7 people that are all kind of looking at you via the computer screen and go beyond and able to do that. And that team ended up going on and doing really well in the showcase as well. But their idea was all about, so kind of vampire devices are those devices in your home that kind of gobble up energy without you knowing them, so things on standby and things. And so their idea was creating an app that was able to help people notice those things and switch them off to save money and to save energy for the planet as well. So that was a really cool one. And another one from last year that kind of stuck out to me, and I kind of have a bit of a special place for, is there was an app called Bin Waste Battles, and it was from a team in Dunoon up here in Scotland. And they the premise of it was that it was a kind of competition with your neighbours on the street. And at the end of the day, I can't quite remember the gist of how it was all calculated, but whatever neighbour on the street recycled the least or contributed the most waste at the end of the week would have to do forfeits. So they'd have to cut all the neighbours' grass or walk the dog or all those types of things. And I thought that was a really clever and quite funny way to bring the community element in and bring the community together, as well as then wanting to reduce waste in that way as well. So some really kind of innovative and creative ideas come through. And as you were saying about some of the entries having videos and things as well. The kind of teams are able to demonstrate it in the way that they want. So some of them make kind of funny sketches, or some of them will have created cartoon advertisements using different systems and things. And it's just really cool to see their personalities coming through, even just in the way that they're able to submit, and then to be able to sit in front of a panel of judges from, kind of last year it was, we had Ovo and Lego and Spotify and all these really amazing organizations, and these young people being able to kind of go there with their idea and put it forwards to say, this is good and I know this is good, and please, let me know how to make it even better, is such a cool thing to be able to see, I think.
Yeah, especially at like the age of 11, 12, 13 as well.
Yeah.
How daunting must that be?
Yeah.
I was very privileged to meet one of the teams from last year from Denby High School a few weeks ago, and they were focused on the vampire devices, and incredibly confident young ladies, and a really good concept. But it was really nice hearing them talking about the opportunity to speak to the industry experts and all that kind of thing, and the fact that they suggested maybe there should be a collaboration between them, because actually their ideas and the company's ideas were quite similar and quite well aligned, and the fact that they've the wherewithal to say, well, maybe we should collaborate here, really says a huge amount about those pupils and their confidence, but also their for want of a better word, their kind of world knowledge.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think
kind of young entrepreneurs in the making, in a way. From those.
I don't think at the age of 12 I would have even understood what collaborating with the company even meant.
Definitely not.
World. And the other thing that really struck me as well, going through, as I say, doing the sessions as the industry expert, but also judging the showcase entries as well, is just, where you've got people, as you say, coming from all over the country and in some cases all over the world, the differences in their location and that for one of it, the demographic that they're dealing with, but also their local challenges are so varied that it really does, it really brings home to you sometimes what the needs of different areas, particularly the very rural areas, how they differ from something, say, for example, like an inner city school where you've got very different problems. But like you say, the creativity that the students display is absolutely superb.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's because that's one of our real, I guess, core kind of pillars and core values, is that we want the students to make something that's student driven. So it's something that they care about, that they have an invested interest in, and that they want to help support or improve or whatever that is. And if we were kind of saying, and in a school in the middle of central London, design something to help farming up in Wales, kind of thing, there's not that direct connection to it. So it's about, giving them the agency to know what is important to them, and to be able to take some action on that. And sometimes we get some really personal entries through. We have, ones where students will tell us that they are dyslexic, and so they've created an app that will support other dyslexic students in their position. Or we've had some quite, almost some quite challenging conversations with students who have created like an app about domestic violence, for example, and some really serious things that are so massively important to these young people. And it's as I say, giving them the chance to have some sort of agency within that for something that they are really passionate about, which is always really amazing.
Absolutely, yeah, and an opportunity to contribute to solutions to their lived experiences, which is the best motivator going, isn't it? I must admit, actually, I think it was the first showcase, the first industry expert session I did with the school, with a group of year sevens, and one of the ideas that came out from that I was really, really impressed with. And then I think it was the next day I was watching Dragon's Den, and a guy was on it who pitched virtually exactly the same.
Really?
Obviously, they didn't know that, and there was nothing. But he pitched virtually exactly the same idea, and it was around kind of like, pretty much a little bit like you say, that kind of community aspect of, you could ask people to do local jobs for you, and they could do it and they would build up kind of like points for helping out, like walking somebody's dog and this and the other, doing little odd jobs and all this kind of stuff in a sustainable way, rather than necessarily, you know, spending a fortune on new equipment and repurposing furniture and all this kind of stuff. And what really struck me was, like, the students blew me away with their example. And the guy on Dragon's Den completely overlooked any privacy issues around there being geolocation and the fact that someone might turn up at your door and say, "Hi, I'm here to walk your dog," and you just let them in. You know, he hadn't even considered that. And he got like £50,000 investment and, and I was like, whoa, hold on a minute. Like, talk about being in the right place at the right time. And you know, but also brilliant for those students that they're ahead of that game, and therefore hopefully they'll have watched that episode and will have gone, hold on a minute, that's our idea. And
we should have been there.
There is people that will buy into that because look what's just happened, you know. So I think that's a huge motivating factor. I just want to ask a little bit about yourself, really, in your own educational experience. What motivated you when you were at school?
Oh, that's a very good question. I guess I was always very keen to learn at school, so just curious about different things, and I really loved learning why or how things worked, I suppose. So that was like a big kind of push factor for me, like, and you know, whether it was in biology and learning about why your lips go blue when it's cold, or whether it was in computing, for example, and, you know, learning I don't know how I remember there was a kind of very basic AI chatbot called Smarter Child that we used to get to go on. And so it was kind of like, how does that work? And learning all those types of things. So it was that curiosity for learning, I suppose, or for understanding things that I didn't understand up to that point, which really drove me, I think, at that point.
You've just made me feel incredibly old. The fact that you're talking about an early AI when you were at school. And I was like, blimey.
All right, not my intention.
No, it's absolutely fine. But it just shows, you know, that these early concepts and these early ideas do come to fruition further down the line. And chances are, you know, it's people like the young people involved with Apps for Good who go on and become those entrepreneurs and come up with those ideas and solve those, become the Stephen Bartletts of the next generation. And,
I know.
I was really, really good. I was fortunate to be at the Bet Show for all 3 days this year, so I was able to see the kids at Bet showcase on the final day and the awarding for the SDGs and all that kind of stuff, and just to see their faces and the way they presented themselves and just how proud they were to be stood in front of a massive auditorium of people. It was incredible. And obviously they got to, you know, get their rewards from Michael Rosen, and who I can't look at without going, oh, it's Melanie. You know, my brain just kicks into gear kind of thing. Fantastic opportunity for them, and they were so proud. And like you say, coming from all over the world. And there was one school there that was a group of students from a Russian school, but they were completely bilingual and presented fantastically in English, and then happened to be sat behind me in the auditorium sort of thing, chatting away in Russian, which even though I did GCSE Russian a long time ago, I didn't pick up very much of at all. You know, but,
I'd be clueless, no idea.
But what a great opportunity for them.
Yeah, really amazing.
So coming back to sort of Apps for Good and the concepts around the courses and everything else, where do you see that going in the future with the advent of AI and things like that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's something that we're having a lot of conversations about just now, because I guess having launched the climate course, we now really can see how much of an important topic that is for young people. And it's almost been able to, because the Innovate for Climate Change course was our first ever thematic course. Our previous ones were more based around, I suppose, the tech. So it was kind of design an app or design a machine learning product, for example. And this was the first one where it was having a bit more of that theme, and it's been picked up really well and received really well. And so it's left us thinking of, okay, what other kind of thematic type courses or type of things could we think about in the future? And AI is obviously such a hot topic just now, and with ChatGPT and everything coming out, it's going to really change, I think, how a lot of things work in the world, never mind in education. So nothing is, I guess, set in stone or confirmed, but we're definitely having conversations about, how can we help students use things like AI for good, and always having that for good element in it, whether that's for kind of social action. We're just about to relaunch our classic app development course, and the kind of relaunched version is called App for Social Action. It's got a lot more of a focus on social action, social change, and how to support students to do that with apps. So I guess kind of thinking about how AI could then also be used for that social action and social change as well is a really interesting idea that we're in early talks and early development about. So hopefully, watch this space. We'll see what comes with that.
I think it's really good to hear. Firstly, that you're looking to embrace it I tend to approach the use of AI in a kind of cautious but accepting, with a constant review going on, in that if I see something I don't like, I'm going to step back and reassess it, kind of thing, rather than throw myself straight in or completely refuse to get involved with it at all. Because some of the stuff, like I've been making quite a lot of use of Adobe Firefly, which is phenomenal in terms of producing stuff. And the years where I've put together things where I've gone, I really want an image for that, but I've got to worry about copyright this and can I use it? And actually, you can just go to something like Firefly or Canva's text to image or Midjourney or whatever, and just create a completely unique image that fits exactly what you want it to fit. Brilliant blogs and all sorts of things where you just want that sort of generic image.
Definitely.
But at the same time, that creativity that you can't find a picture of, and in the past you just spent hours playing around with Photoshop, whereas now it's literally done in seconds for you. I particularly like you say there. I think we've seen, probably because of the I try not to get political, but probably because of the state of the nation, a real rise in the in student interest in that social change, and some in the right way and some not necessarily in the right way. High profile cases of student protests and things like that done in a very sensible and a very mature way, and others not so much. Then the children and the learning, and actually it's important that we educate them about the right way to do things. So I think that social change aspect, I think, is going to be really, really important going forward. And just you look at now at how technology is incorporated into everything that we do, and then you kind of wonder about the electoral process and how are we still dealing with bits of paper, and how is that reaching people, because there's a problem with voter apathy. But then we're expecting people to traipse backwards and forwards. Now they've got to bring certain ID with them, but some people might not have that ID. If you don't drive and you haven't got a valid passport, you're really struggling to be able to actually go and see your vote.
Definitely, it's really missing really key parts of the country and of the population. So
so I think all of those kind of areas that give those pupils a voice. Not just in terms of what they want said, but also in terms of how you collect that information as well. And I can really see sort of lots of uses for apps in the future for, collecting information from large groups of people really quickly, AI then analyzing it and pulling out key themes.
Definitely.
That perhaps are less personally persuaded, if you like. So it's like anything. We can all look at feedback from a survey and say, well, from that, I'm going to interpret this. But actually, that's what we've interpreted. That might not actually.
We bring all of our own histories and biases and things with it, and then look at it that way.
And the ability to be able to use a tool that's going to have absolutely no bias, or that you might be able to instruct to have a certain bias because you want to see what would happen in that scenario, I think really exciting.
Definitely.
And really, powerful for the young people coming through. And that's why I'm a big believer that they need to be able to embrace it. I did. I got a little ping on my Snapchat, which I don't use very often. I'll be honest. Basically, for my daughter when she wants a lift.
Okay.
Passed the driving test this week, so.
Oh, amazing! Congratulations to her.
Yeah. Dad's taxi's retiring for a bit until she needs a lift somewhere. But yeah, I got a little ping saying, "Oh, I'm my AI on Snapchat. Let's start a conversation kind of thing." So I did. And it asked me what had I been doing. I said I've been filming like a little mini documentary this morning, kind of thing.
Amazing.
And then it said, "Oh, well, that's really good. What was it about?" And I was kind of saying, "Well, it's technology based for education and all this kind of thing." And they were saying, and then he basically came back and said, "Can you recommend any other kind of technology based documentaries that I could watch?"
Okay.
So me being me replied, "Well, no, because you're a language model powered by AI. You haven't got any eyes. You're not a real person. You're not going to watch it." And it basically refused to answer and completely changed the question. Changed the subject altogether. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I've been rumbled.
Yeah. I saw actually a similar thing where someone had used it and both the AI and this person had written a song together. So there was like, it asked the AI to write lyrics and then to make notes, and the person played it on a piano, and it was like, oh, the AI has created this song. And then when it went back and they went back and said to it, oh, I've made the song, the AI kind of said, oh, I've never written a song. I don't have the ability to write a song. So it was kind of a bit of a video of someone going, that doesn't make sense. This is a bit strange. But yeah, there's a kind of interesting
at least
thing going on there.
For it.
Yeah.
That's the one that worries me. When you get these weird collaborations at the moment, you get something like Freddie Mercury collaborating with Bob Marley, for example.
Yeah.
Like, who gets the royalties for that?
I know. I have no idea.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, really weird. It's quite an interesting time, I think, and it's making me think of we used the AI image generator Dolly with a school about a month ago, and we did it. This was a bit of a kind of one-off thing that we were doing, and we did it to kind of show how machines learn and what it brings and how it's not always perfect, I think, as well. And it was, I mean, the students loved it because we would say to them, think of a place and a thing, an object and a style. And so we'd make pictures of, a giant rubber duck flattening New York in a retros 80s gaming style and things like that. So you see all these really cool things. And part of it is amazing because it's like seeing all that creativity coming out, but also just thinking, gosh, like, where are these pictures coming from? And like, and at some point they're going to get so realistic that you think you're never going to know what's real and what's not real. So it's a really funny time.
It is. It's quite. I quite enjoy trying to spot the AI.
Yeah. So always the hands gives it away, I think.
Fingers.
Yeah.
Anne Boleyn, she had 6 fingers, so it's not everyone, but little things like that where it's just not quite right. But even little things like taking a headshot and then just using like the magic edit tool to completely change your outfit.
I know.
Like, for me, that's like mind blowing. But for a young person who's kind of like, right, what's this outfit going to look like if I'm wearing it?
Yeah.
What a great tool to be able to just go, well, that's what I'd look like wearing that. And that's what I'd look like wearing that. And that's what I'd look like wearing that.
I know, it's like something from Clueless. I don't know if that's really up your street, but that was a part in that 90s film.
I'm not that old. I do remember Clueless. Absolutely. Yeah. But, brilliant everyday applications of those things. Just be able to walk into a shop and instead of messing about trying things on, just being able to go, right, well, let's take a picture of myself and let's put that outfit on it. And then let's try that outfit. And at least then you've got an idea of whether you like the look of it or not. And then you can go and try it on if you want to. But really speeding things up from that point of view. And also with the added bonus as well, I suppose, that for a lot of people, things like, going into shops and trying things on. I know, I'm 6'5" and I'm just shy of 19 stone. And I'll go into one shop and one pair of trousers in the one size will fit me perfectly. And you go into another shop, nowhere near. It's literally like 5 sizes apart.
Yeah.
And that's really, it gets you down, obviously.
Oh, massively. It's so damaging. Yeah.
Exactly. And actually you can kind of remove a lot of that by kind of, well, let's use the AI first of all to see if it suits me. And then I know whether I'll go through the rigmarole of actually trying it on and see how I get on and all that kind of thing. But if the AI could then also say to you, well, by the way, this outfit looks brilliant. However, these trousers tend to come up a little bit small, so size up, or this top tends to be a little bit short in the arms, or whatever it might be. All of that, you know, which is just information out there through, that's through sort of Amazon reviews or product reviews on
size guidance, all that stuff. I mean, it sounds like you're developing your future Apps for Good AI app there. You're getting quick before it ends up on Dragon's Den.
Yeah, but you know, that's what I love about it, that, you know, ideas breed ideas, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
And the fact that, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about these things and we're discussing them is all down to those students with their original ideas in the first place. And you know, fair play to them. It's absolutely superb, and 100% encourage people to get involved, because, you know, it doesn't have to take up a lot of time, but at the same time, like we said at the beginning, it also takes a little bit of that heavy lifting off of the teacher as well.
Absolutely, and I think something that's really important as well, it's just I'm kind of looking at your What's Their Why logo at the top, and I think something that for me joining Apps for Good was really important was the focus on inclusivity, and that's in like lots of different ways. So whether it's, you know, making sure that we're reaching all different types of schools across the country and bringing equal opportunities to all, and having, you know, someone from a company like Google be able to virtually join your classroom, whether you're in, you know, the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, or whether you're in central London, or whatever kind of place the school's in at the moment, in terms of, you know, Ofsted ratings and all of those really complex things. It's been able to give those kind of equal opportunities to everyone, which as someone, I went to quite a deprived school when I was younger and didn't have any of these opportunities. So I think that was really, really important to me, signing up or joining the team. But as well as that, it's thinking about things like how you connect that to then those careers in tech. So we know there's an overwhelming difference in kind of the female to male ratio in tech, for example, and a lot of that is because young girls maybe don't see role models in themselves in the tech industry, and a lot of the, I guess, the mainstream media and all those things as well. So it's being able to bring that, to show that there are those people out there, and to try and spark that interest in tech and computing and all these different subjects and skills, to then try and almost slowly make the world reflect the reality of make the tech career space reflect the reality of the world today. So I think that's something that's really, really important, and it's something that we really strive for as well, to bring this to everyone and to anyone, and to make it something that is accessible regardless of who you are, where you are, what your background is as well.
I think that's so important, you know, and really, really key, that particularly in school environments, you know, young people see IT not being, you know, the guy who's in a cupboard that you go to if you can't log on. That's IT, you know, and it's just full of bits of things, and you know, that's not what it is at all. And the more people see people like yourself and see themselves represented in the IT and the EdTech community, the better. You did mention that we were talking about social change earlier. You mentioned Ofsted there. There's a great focus for a future, you know, future social. Actually, how would pupils redesign a school accountability and inspection service? You know,
that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, because, you know, I'm a big believer in pupils being a key part of any kind of accountability process, because aside from the fact that they need to have a voice, they also feel the weight of responsibility. So if their school has an inspection, regardless of their own experience, I think they're still feeling the responsibility of, actually, this is my school. This is, you know, this is about me. This is linked to me, and therefore they're protective, but they're also responsible, and they want to make sure that they're you know, doing the best they can for their teachers, and even if, you know, they don't always get on the best with all their teachers, actually underneath it all, they want everybody to be happy and enjoy their work. And, you know, happy people teach happy kids, and happy kids learn.
Absolutely.
Wow, you know, what an opportunity that would be. And
it would be incredible.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, being able to see what out of all of these many factors, what is it that are important to the young people and to the students,
Absolutely.
and making sure those are I suppose weighted appropriately, I guess, within that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something, an interesting kind of thought of how that would work. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see that in
Who
upcoming
knows?
years.
Yeah, no, Jodie, it's been brilliant chatting to you.
Yeah, likewise.
Really great to have a chat, and obviously really great as well to highlight the options that are available through Apps for Good. And like I've said before, I would 100% recommend people go and take a look and get involved, because it's not onerous. It's hugely valuable, not just for the pupils, but for the school as well, but also for the wider world and moving forward in terms of those key skills that the students are going to develop. And ultimately, that's what it's all about. And from my own perspective, just seeing those students, whether it's been on calls, whether it's been on videos, whether it's been demonstrating their apps, or whether it's been a big event like BET, just seeing the pride on their faces is worth every moment of it. And a huge thank you to you and the rest of the team for everything you're doing to make this available to schools for free.
Yeah.
There's not a lot out there that's free, but if it's free, it's for me. It's kind of like my motto.
Yeah, a good motto to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you having me on today. It's been a really lovely time just to talk about, I guess, where we're at now and the potentials in the future as well. So yeah, really great to be on with your podcast with you. It's been lovely.
It's been great to have you. So just final thank you, and thanks to everyone for listening and watching as well. And we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.